Well, hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. I've got some news to share with you. Um, in the time since I made the last video, which was a tour of the layout, hope you all enjoyed that, I found out that my two-car garage has become available, or will become available this spring. As you may or may not know, the layout's currently sitting in a room over the garage. Some people call that a bonus room around here. And that room has morphed into a home office since the beginning of COVID, and it may well stay that way. Also, with COVID maybe winding down, the possibility for overnight guests has returned. And I did design the layout thinking that a day may come where I need to move it. So if you look in the picture, you can see it's nothing but some wall braces holding up a door. Everything's on a door. It's an 18-inch bifold door, so there's an 18-inch section here and an 18-inch section of door that's vertical that I use for the backdrop. And that's all there is to it. So this is very sturdy, should be fairly easy to move without doing too much damage. So I did discuss possibly moving the layout, with my wife, and for reasons I'm going to get into here in this video, that is my plan. I am going to move the layout to the garage, and I'm going to kind of show you guys what my thought process is for that. Here is the space of my two-car garage. It's roughly 21 by 21. I've got this little dashed line in here that sort of represents, I'm calling it the no-go space. Layout cannot be over here. So there's a door that goes to my house right here, and a little stoop right here, and a few steps that come down. And then over here on this wall is a pedestrian door. And I've got a hot water tank right here, a utility sink right here, and a spare freezer / beer refrigerator that's sitting right here. I don't want to lose any of that stuff. Oh, and circuit breakers on this wall as well. So to allow access to all of that stuff, I kind of limited myself to the top left of this line here. And in the negotiation process with my lovely wife, it was basically determined that I could have the whole space. So taking this piece out, that gives me a 17 roughly by 17 area with this little corner chopped out. But I also have a little 7 by 4 area back here, and you'll see how I use that space as well. So let me go ahead and add a few layers here so you can see kind of what I'm working with. So let's bring in the bench work and the backdrop that I'm thinking about, as well as the existing track layer. So you'll recognize these three modules. You got Manchester. Like I said at the top, I'm going to use as much, or potentially even all of the layout, most of it. So Manchester has a home. The creek scene with the teddy bear fur and the creek that runs through it, and where the beginnings of South Yard are, is going to make the cut, although I'll have to modify this side a bit. In its current configuration, the creek is here. Manchester would be up here, kind of at an angle, at a right angle to it, and I've got a little 3x3 corner module I built that I don't think I'm going to use. That's where there's a rock face and some track that kind of sneaks behind a backdrop, so that area is going to need to be modified. And then South Yard nearly in its entirety. This orange area is the very stable, I think I can move it all in one piece, chunk of bench work. The only modifications I would need to do is, as it's currently situated right after this turnout coming off the industry track here, it does curve to the right on a 22-inch radius, and that's where it actually connects to the creek scene currently. So some modifications here at the far end of the yard will need to be made. But for the most part, all of the work I've done, all of the track, weathering, all the stuff I've been talking about lately is going to survive into the new layout, and I think it would fit real nice right here. So let's bring in some new track, kind of show you how I'm thinking of stitching all of this together. So you can see what I've done here. Let's start in the yard. Is I extended the south yard classification tracks and greatly extended the main line and arrival departure tracks kind of up around this bend to tie into the creek scene. All of this space also allows me to take the mainline radius from 22 to 26 inches. So all of these mainline curves here and over here, down there and around, and even around the peninsula are all 26. So that's nice. I don't intend to run passenger equipment, and I'm modeling the late 50s. So none of the overall, time period or any of that stuff's really going to change. So mostly 40 foot, the occasional 50 foot piece of rolling stock, first generation diesels, basically cutting off time when the Jeep 18 came out. So let's just continue around. Let me go ahead and add some scenery and structures as well, and kind of talk through some of the other changes. So I've already mentioned the extension of the arrival departure tracks, the main line. The classification tracks get significantly longer. They were all to about right here. They all get 4 or 5 feet longer. The power plant was going to stop right here. I'm able to extend that. And then this track down here where it just says warehouse, I can zoom in on that, maybe y'all can see better. That was to be a water treatment plant, and I was going to kind of squeeze a tank or two in there and make that a water treatment area. I've instead moved the water treatment to the far end of the yard, not on the industrial switching track that's on the back here. It comes off the main instead, and the reasons for that was a couple of them. One, it's a lot more room to really model the tank farm and some buildings and stuff. And two, I had already scenicked this compound ladder, but I've mentioned it in other videos, I was not using any of these classification tracks as through tracks. Even if I made this have a connection to the main line on this side, the way I've designed the yard intentionally, not for the main to have any direct access into the classification tracks themselves, it would still essentially be a one-ended track as it relates to the main line. So I think I'll just I'll leave this turnout in. There's actually another one just beyond it that's not scenic currently, that's sitting, sort of in this area of the south yard module that I'm just going to remove, and I'm going to make a spur come off of that for this water treatment scene. I have trees all along the back. Here's the creek scene you're very familiar with. So the creek's still there. The teddy bear fur field's still there. There's a little hill in this corner here. All the trees, the backdrop, none of that changes. That scene gets incorporated in its entirety. Moving to the right, or layout north, a little bit more open running here. This still is the spur for where Manchester comes off, but rather than just come around a corner and go directly into this module down here, it now is going to have a little bit of open running before it hits this area, which is going to be a newly designed module to expand sort of the operations around Manchester. So I'm going to have a warehouse here, a team track. There's a passing track here, which is important because the original Manchester section that you're used to seeing, the passing track that's defined by these turnouts right here, if you follow it, is limited to 5 cars in a caboose that you can run around. And because there are some facing point turnouts here, whoops, Control Z, because there are some facing point turnouts down here at the far end of the module, you do need to run around the train. So the idea would be you'd come off the main, out of the yard, off the main, switch the warehouse, switch the team track, leave that part of the train here, and then proceed forward into the existing module, max of 5 cars, switch those cars, rebuild the train, bring it back, pick up the cars that were left behind, and then head back to the yard. So a little bit of expanded operations for Manchester. It could go from a 5-car train max to, upwards of, 15, 16, depending on how the industry demand gets generated. And there's plenty of room if I were to park the train, to switch this warehouse, if you were to park the engine here and make your cut, you could leave, a pretty long train all the way back to here before you foul the main. So that's the idea there. Then if you just follow the main around the back here, similar to what I've done currently, just some trees and possibly a rock face, and just sort of make the main kind of dip behind the Manchester area into greatly expanded staging. I'm going to add one more layer here because it's got my notes on the track lengths. So I've mentioned all of this about Manchester. You can see just how long some of these staging tracks are. And 5 of them, zoom back out real quick, 5 of them are through staging tracks and only 3 stub-ended. My current configuration has 4 through tracks and 2 stub-ended, and none of them can hold more than about 10 cars plus a caboose. So this is significantly bigger staging running around behind the back of Manchester, kind of as it currently does. This would be a pretty high duck under area right through here. So as you're coming down the stairs and around, this is how you get into the layout. And it's a duck under. I'm thinking of putting this thing up, chest high for me, which is, 48, 50 inches off the ground, pretty high. So I don't think it'll be too much trouble to duck under that. More of a nod under, I think, unless you're about, 7 feet tall. So the main would come around here off on this peninsula. Very long passing siding here that could have a capacity of 39 cars, whether as I move forward here, if I want to keep it that long or not. Just because I have staging for that doesn't mean I necessarily want a train length like that. So the main comes around here, passes through this peninsula, comes around, and much like it currently does, the switch lead comes way around, way all the way over to here, and it is long enough to pull from the longest track all in one cut. And then the main line comes back around just like it currently does, and this is now the south end of the yard. So coming out of staging this direction is northbound from the south, running along parallel to all of that industry, which I'll talk about in a minute, and into the yard. So same scheme as currently. It's a loop with staging that represents both north and south staging. And here is where the enhancements really get going. So Deepwater Terminal is going to come off the main right here, and in the current configuration, there'd be a grain elevator with not even this much capacity, and then about a 3x3 area to represent the terminal itself, right here. And I'm going to come back to that, but let's work our way off the main on the Deepwater Terminal. So the elevator is expanded. I was able to add, there's a really cool industry, you can see the name of it on the roof from I-95 as you're driving into the city from the south, right in this area, called Williams Bridge Company. And I think they made bridges, and so I envision flat cars and loads of all kinds of cool girders and trusses and all kinds of steel components going in and out of there. Just really cool industry to model. Very big warehouse. So I want to kind of represent that here coming off of the Deepwater Terminal as well. Working our way around, there is also a quarry, which I'll show you in a minute. We'll flip over to Google Maps and I'll talk about some of this stuff. But there's a stone quarry, and there's enough room here for, 5 hopper cars for stone. So that's kind of cool. And that's a facing point, which is a little, different. Most of these are trailing points as you're coming on to the Deepwater Terminal. So then there's a little bit of a passing track here, for runaround moves, etc. And over here, where I currently only had a 3x3 area with a piece of the corner missing, I've now got 7-8 feet by 2.5 to work with to represent the terminal. And for the most part here, I'm actually representing the real track arrangement. So I've got a track coming off, more of like a team track right here for large equipment and stuff. And I picture this area here being a paved, like a dock, paved pier out into the water with ships able to park right here. And the James River is actually deep enough for ocean-going vessels. Not Panamax, obviously, but pretty good-sized ships can come all the way up to the Deepwater Terminal, hence the name. We're 60 miles inland up the James River from the Chesapeake Bay. So you've got that track, and then you actually have 4 tracks that serve these 2 warehouses which is exactly how the real Deepwater Terminal is arranged. And then this little tail track, and I'm curving it for a reason. And let me show you that real quick. Let me just switch over. So here is the real Deepwater Terminal. And let me just zoom in a little bit. You see the 4 tracks, the 2 big warehouses, the little tail track that curves. And I've seen some old pictures of this area, and there actually was a track that comes, and it used to loop all the way around to over here. And this was where there were some tracks and some cranes for offloading big equipment out into the vessels that were parked out here. They've since torn all that up, so the track just stubs right here. And over on my layout, I don't have room to run all the way around the end of it like this with the, if I want to represent all these other industries. So I just moved that track rather than have it come around. I just brought it over here and have a stub there. Otherwise, that very closely resembles the way the real terminal is arranged. All right, so I found some pretty interesting pictures around the web of Deepwater Terminal, and this one's from 1955. Shows the track arrangement, the river in the background there. You see the warehouses here with the 4 tracks coming down the middle. You see the track I was talking about that comes and currently stubs here. It used to run clear around here out onto a area out here with all these cranes, and you see how there's a ship there. Just kind of get a general sense of what it looked like at that time. This is a much more modern view. A lot of the track work is still there, but the stuff around the end isn't there. But I mean, look at the size of these ships that were coming up the river as late as 2008. I mean, these are big ships. That's we're 60 some miles up the James River from Hampton Roads, the Chesapeake Bay, and the Atlantic Ocean. So just showing you that it's a real port in a really weird place. Here's just some historical shots that show the warehouse. I think in this particular one, they are shipping cattle, maybe across the ocean, loading it with hay to feed them. But it kind of gives a sense of what those warehouse buildings looked like. Here's looking down the end of the pier, so that track that loops around. You get this track in the pavement with these big cranes and stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting. This is what it looks like today. Obviously, all that has been removed. The warehouses are still there. This is just a view of the port from the river. Kind of get a sense of what the edge of it looks like. Another shot from the water here. Again, seeing what the warehouses themselves look like and what the seawall looked like. This is obviously more recent history. This picture cracked me up. This is from the 40s, and at some point they brought an aircraft carrier up here. Don't know why, but that gives you a sense of just how deep the channel is on the river, all the way to within a couple of miles of Richmond. So we talk about that end of the pier, flat car loads, interesting things. Check that out. There's a load of newsprint from the mid-60s. I'm modeling the late 50s, so this is something I might think about as I expand the operations of this thing. There's another thing I hadn't considered, and this is a tanker full of asphalt being unloaded at the terminal there. Here's a cool shot from Google Street View from I-95. You can actually see the warehouse buildings as they look in the present day. So that'll help me, scratch build and think about how to model this. Here's a present day shot at the tracks and one of the warehouse buildings from inside the other warehouse building. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, just some pictures and some things I was able to see that gave me some ideas about how to incorporate that I wanted to share. All right, so just starting at Deepwater Terminal here, I wanted to show you guys the other things that we're modeling. So as we just go north, I mentioned the quarry. You might be thinking, a quarry right next to the river? Yes, Quarry right next to the river. And it looks like here's the Deepwater Terminal is running right next to the road here. The railroad is right here. There you go. You can see that. And Quarry was right over here. It's not rail served anymore, but I do believe at one point it looks like something coming off, like an old spur or something was coming off maybe through here. So looks like it's actually kind of cool. The satellite caught him offloading some gravel onto a barge, but we're going to do it rail served. Keep heading north here. Let me zoom out just a touch. Here's some more quarry. So yeah, rock was mined right next to the river. You're well below the river line here. There's South Yard. So this is actually the end of Deepwater Terminal here. It curves, you know, and connects with South Yard right there. But there's some stuff just here. So here's the water treatment plant. And it is, or was at some point, rail served. So there's the tanker offloading area. And that track connects right up through here along the river. Under I-95, there's a diamond. This is the old Seaboard Airline main right here. And this connection over here is to the Southern Railroad. So looks like that water treatment plant would have been served from maybe the Southern, but I'm going to do it from the Seaboard. And then here is the spur that goes up to, this is the elevator. You can see the silos there. It was a 2-track. You see the spur came right across. Little bridge there, and what a complicated bunch of track right through here. How cool is this? And the last thing I wanted to show you, remember I said there was that bridge builder you could see from I-95, which is right here. So right across I-95 from the water treatment plant, here's Williams Bridge Building Company. And if I come in on that, this is the Seaboard Airline main right here. You can see the spurs coming in, all kinds of track was going into this building and around it and stuff. Just a really cool, let's see if we can do a street view and see what that looks like. Show you how cool this, yeah, there it is. There's a billboard in the way, some trees in the way. There we go. Now you kind of see what it looks like. I like the shape of it. My version of this will have tracks going right into this tall area. I'm not sure if that's what they really did or not, but this is just a cool building, and you can read clearly the name printed right on the side of the roof there. I just think that's such a cool piece of industrial history of Richmond. And there's the skyline right there. So I mean, you're just south of the river, just south of the city here. Just a really cool area. So just wanted to show you all that as well. So all of those things I'm incorporating into the Deepwater Terminal branch on my layout. So that's kind of my thinking. And where does that leave the channel? I think what I'm going to do, and love some feedback from you guys, is basically run a series of operational videos from here until the time I'm ready to move the layout. Kind of run through a whole op session, which is 8 different trains and lots of switching and stuff, but I could kind of just do it in sequence and show the operations of the layout as it currently sits. That's kind of option 1. Option 2, I have a bunch of DCC installs to do, plenty of freight cars to weather, lots of stuff I could be working on. Yeah, and maybe option 3 would be a little bit of a variety of both. So we'll see how the spirit moves me there. Oh, one other note. The narrowest aisle is right here. That 27 is 27 inches. Otherwise, I've got, 3+ feet here. Lots of switching going on here and here, so I feel like it's good to have a decently wide aisle. And then a minimum of 40.5 inches on this side. Not that anybody would be operating in the yard this way. The ladder's down here, and as you see, it actually opens up and is even wider here, where the yard master would probably spend most of his time standing in this area here. Oh, and then the workbench would go under the layout over here. So just a very narrow, it'd be scenic, but no more than a foot wide shelf here, kind of behind the workbench. Up at 50 some inches, my workbench is down at 30. So I picture a bench, something like this, which is significantly bigger than what I currently have. And I would just sort of work in this area here. in twice the space I currently have for the workbench. So all around, I pick up a ton of stuff, significantly longer main line run. I actually did make the decision to run the main line all the way around this peninsula. I had at one point had it designed just sort of cutting off and coming across here. That actually was a little difficult with the geometry, with 26-inch radius turn, staying out of this area here where I, my no-go space. It was geometrically easier to go around the peninsula. Plus, it allows you to run mainline trains through all this scenery and cool industrial stuff. So I opted for it that way. So anyway, sorry that those notes came right at the very end. This video is running long. I didn't mean for it to go over 20 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up here. Let me zoom out, let y'all see the layout plan one more time. Again, thanks for watching. I hope everyone is well and safe.